Hello and welcome to this webinar, Digital Signatures, Your Most Successful SharePoint Project. I am Larry Kluger, and this is contact information for me. So let's get started, and we will learn about digital signatures, everything you wanted to know. I want to preface the webinar with the concept of digital disruption. This is from Forrester Research, and it's also now being talked about by other people as well. It's the point that life is now changing quite a bit because of the technologies that are now available. As Forrester Research puts it, the barriers to entry in your market have just vanished. Unexpected competitors are swarming in. Are you ready? Disrupt yourself now. And of course, the subtext there is disrupt yourself before someone does it to you. The idea of digital disruption is that these days, modern web technologies, cloud technologies, software that is aimed first at consumers but can also be used in businesses, organizations, and government enable people to do things 10 times faster, 1/10 the cost of the past. And this means two things. The first is that our current competitors are going to be enabled by using these new technologies, and so they will be competing with us at a level that they have not been able to do in the past. The second, as the first slide referred to, is that now there's going to be and are continuing to be new competitors coming out of the woodwork. These people are not shackled by the past. They can take full advantage of these new and current technologies, and we need to face up to that. So the issue and opportunity is for us to disrupt ourselves before they do it to us. And one of the ways to do that is SharePoint, workflow, modern workflow engines, and digital signatures from us or from one of our valued competitors, but I think we have the best story here. So what is it about digital signatures? Number one is that they obey open standards. And that means, amongst many other things that I'll discuss over the webinar, one of the most important things to think about is that when you are the recipient of a digitally signed document, you can verify the signature and the document itself, in fact, with the free Adobe Reader or Word or Excel and so forth. If someone has signed a PDF and sent it to the recipient, then the recipient can just open it up in the free Adobe Reader. I'm not talking about Acrobat here. Or in fact, they can use Bluebeam Review, or they can use other PDF viewers, and they can verify the digital signature. If you've digitally signed a Word document, then Word itself, without any plugins, added software, anything else, can verify it. And we'll see all that during the course of this webinar. And that's one of the many advantages of using the open standards of digital signatures. Now, all of us have done this sort of a thing in the past where we take a picture or scan a signature and just stick it into a document. That is what I call the lowest grade of so-called electronic signature. And this is not safe in any sense of the word. And in fact, this is simply a slightly more current version of doing what Nicholas Leeson did, which is just copy and paste. And it means, for instance, that you have no control over what happens to your signature once it's sent onward. It can be copied onto another document. It also means that you can't tell if the document that you supposedly signed, using air quotes, has been changed since you added your signature to it. And you also, the recipient can't tell if the document was changed somewhere along the way from the time that you added your signature to it to the time it was received. So this sort of thing is, we've all done this in the past, but it's not the way to go. And nowadays, the fact that open standard digital signatures are so easy to use and have such a rapid payback, that's the way that you want to go. And also there's the concept of duty of care, and that means that you want to, amongst other things it means, is that you want to prepare for foreseeable issues ahead of time, and in fact it's your duty and obligation to do so. And I propose to you that these days, using wet signatures, which can be so easily forged and copied, are simply not secure. And nowadays, the duty of care means that you want to be investigating something standard, such as digital signatures, for any kind of online processing. So what do they give you? Digital signatures are the highest grade of electronic signature, and they guarantee what we call the 3 I's. Number one is the identity of the person who signed it, and this identity is guaranteed through the person's digital ID or digital certificate that is included with the signature itself. It's embedded into the signed document. It also gives you intent, and this adds up along with the other aspects of digital signatures. This adds up to what is called non-repudiation. That's a technical term meaning that it is extremely hard for someone to say, I did not sign it, when in fact they did sign it. It's extraordinarily hard, and that's a very important feature and concept within digital signatures. The third is integrity, and this is very important for both the person signing and the person receiving, what we call the relying party. The cryptographic techniques involved with digital signatures absolutely guarantee that any change to the document will invalidate the signature. And what you can see on the right-hand side here on the top is this is how Word shows you the digital signature. At the top, Word is giving you that green check mark saying that the document has not been changed since the time it was signed, and also that the identity of the signer is trusted. The indication on the bottom with that red X is that the document was changed in some way, or that there's some issue with the with assuring the identity of the signer. You should assume, or let me confirm, that a document can be digitally signed in the same way as signing paper documents with pen and ink. You can have multiple people sign the document, and that all works very well. So from the legal point of view, which is another frequent question, can you use digital signatures? You absolutely can, and in fact here is where you want to check not just that the person has implemented digital signatures, but whether the vendor themselves have passed various regulations and tests. And so that's why I'm saying, can you use CoSign digital signatures as opposed to somebody else's digital signatures? You want to check and make sure that the that the vendor is certified with the different standards bodies, and in fact we are certified with all the different rules, regulations, laws, and testing authorities, and so forth. So it's always fun to see what people are doing these days with their own technology. Let's do a poll. I'm going to show you the results of the poll as soon as we're done here. And the poll, the first one, is whether you're using SharePoint Online or on premises these days. Okay, there we go. So that's some interesting statistics there. And this is consistent with audiences at other times too. Let's now talk about digital transformation. And the first part of this is you're using a system such as SharePoint. That's the most common one, of course, but everything when I'm referring to SharePoint also concerns any other electronic content management system, whether that's whether your favorite is OpenText, HP Trim, Alfresco, there's many others on the marketplace. And in all cases, the idea is to organize the documents beyond just the folder names, but also with metadata. So you no longer have to give as part of the name of the document, for instance, the date, so you can then sort by date or search for the name or whatever. The next part, what I consider the next part, is that you're using workflow, as I just referred to. And very important to me is that workflow gives you two things. The first is that it's enabling the work to flow from one person to the next, keeping track of what's going on, reminding people when something hasn't been done, providing the information to people so they can do their tasks and so forth. But a second very important benefit of modern workflow systems is that they enable the managers to easily gather statistics to really understand how long different parts of the business processes take. And that power of statistics is very important and sometimes overlooked. Anytime you're implementing a workflow project, I urge you to be collecting statistics so that you can use them to really understand the business processes. Okay, but then step 3 of digital transformation is to go all the way to completely paperless. And that means that for any business process that results in a document that needs to be signed or approved, that you do that online using digital signatures. This means getting rid of what some people call the print, sign, scan cycle, where you print something out, you sign it, and then you scan it back into SharePoint or whatever system you're using. And instead, everything is completely online. So this is level 3 or part 3 of digital transformation. And it brings a lot of benefits. The first one is that there's no more of those signed paper originals to keep track of and have to file and deal with. That's good. The second I want to point out is that there's also hard benefits. So that's things that are very easily calculated in terms of money. You're going to be saving time, printing costs, scanning. You can see my list that I have here. Another is that it's auditable. With online digital signatures and digital systems, you can really understand what is happening and why it happened and when it happened and who did it. And it's secure. As I referred to earlier, it's extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible, to forge digital signatures. I'd say the only way would be movie plots with forcing people to give up their identity and to sign something on your behalf when you're the bad guy. Now, there's also what I call soft benefits. The first one is, why didn't we switch to digital signatures sooner? And this is the issue that it's so much more convenient to sign something online, just as it's so much more convenient to fax something from an online system instead of the old way of printing it out, finding a fax machine, putting in the number, feeding into paper, and hoping that it worked. Everything online makes everything faster and easier. These days, your partners are beginning to expect it too. It makes business go so much faster. If you want some more benefits, you can visit your friendly records department. And this is a picture of a records department from, I believe, Veterans Affairs in the U.S. I forget which state. And the quote is from a CIO at a pharmaceutical company that I was talking about. And he was talking about rooms and rooms of paper that have to be filed and found and sorted and tracked. And that's all online and automatic once you're switching to a fully digital system, including digital signatures. No more paper to keep track of. If you're wondering why there's all these boxes on the floor, it's because they ran out of file cabinets and the paper was arriving faster than they could buy filing cabinets. So that's what was happening here. You can see that they are doing some tracking with barcodes, but it's a whole lot easier just to have it all online, of course. Now, the analysts, in this case Forrester, they agree with this. This is no longer some sort of a brave decision. This is now standard stuff. And what they're saying here, you can read the quote, is that you as an enterprise architect or as a manager should include electronic signatures, meaning in particular digital signatures, as part of your strategy. At this point, it's now foundational, as Forrester refers to it. And they give their bottom line of dramatic savings, successful implementations, no legal challenges, no problems. Now, speaking of the money, AIM has done a regular measurement of this, where people have responded, amongst other things, how fast they achieve their return on investment. And what they found was that 81% of the digital signature projects reached their investment in terms of money saved in a year or less. And in fact, as you can see at the bottom, 25% said that it only took 3 months or less. Now, speaking specifically about my company's product, Forrester had very nice words about us, saying how we're the most advanced digital signature capability. And what they focused on is how easy it is to integrate CoSign with internal security and credential systems, and its strong central administration capabilities. So what does this look like to the end user? They can use either customizable or preset signature fields. And the reason why you would want a preset signature field is when you have a workflow that has a standard sort of a document, then you're always going to be signing in the same place. So rather than having to position and reposition where your signature is going to go, you can have that all set up ahead of time. Your signature can include the name of the person who signed it, his or her title, reason codes, date and time, and all sorts of other things. CoSign supports batch signing. Thick client, that's a Windows client. Thin client, which means web client. We have mobile clients for Android and iOS these days. And we also have APIs, very important for extending the system to make a tight integration with your own applications. Signing is very easy. In this case, we are signing on the Windows desktop, and you position where you want to sign, and then you can see the preview of your signature, and you press sign there in the middle, and your document is signed. Okay, so let's have a little signing example now. I have a letter that's on Office 365, and then I'm going to update it and then sign it. And I'm going to verify the signature using the desktop version of Word. So let's see here. Okay, so what we're seeing, and maybe I can make this a little bigger. Okay, so we're seeing here, this is Office 365, and I'm logged in, and this is a Word document that I want to edit. So I'm going to, I guess, scroll down here and say that I want to edit in the browser. So this is bringing up Word Online, and Word Online, as you may know, is not as capable as, shall we say, Real Word, but it still works pretty well. So let's just update this this Word document. I'm going to change the date to today, and let's see here. It turns out that the managers decided that we wanted to give Susan an even bigger raise. So let's do that. Okay, and this is what's called a signature line. So this was added using Word Desktop. And as you may know, there is no save command with Word Online, and it's always automatically saved. So at this point now, we can simply go back to our team site up here in the black ribbon. And now we are going to select this document, and we'll use the ribbon, and we're going to sign the document. So this is using the CoSign application for Office 365 SharePoint Online. And let me type in authenticate myself. And sign in. Okay. So now we're seeing the document. You can see, in fact, that it was changed by Word. So this is the preview. This is CoSign. Let me see if I can now make the zoom level be more regular. Okay. And now I'm going to sign the document. I click sign down at the bottom. I have my choice of, in this case, I have my choice of signatures. And you can see that if you are, if there's a professional seal that you have, then you could sign including the professional seal. In this case, I'm just going to use my regular Bill Linden signature. And I'm going to include my title. And what's happening right now is the cryptographic process of actually creating the digital signature. That's been done. We can see that at the very bottom here. So now I click done, and I'm going to go back to Office 365 SharePoint Online. So now what we want to do, the document's now been signed. So I'm now going to select the document and download a local copy to my desktop. And we are now opening it in Word. This is Word 2013 on the running locally on my Windows machine. Now, what you can see here is that Word locally, without any plugins, is showing us the digital signature. And it's also giving us that green check showing that the signature has been verified by Word. And so that means both that we trust the contents of the document have not been changed since it was signed, and also that the identity of the signer is assured. So if I double click on it, this signature details comes from Word, and it's telling me specifically that the content has not been changed and the signature, the signer certificate is valid. Okay, very good. So that's the end of this demo. Okay. So let's go on. What we're seeing here is that digital signatures, as I mentioned before, are independently verifiable. We're seeing a picture now, a screenshot of Adobe Reader, and you're seeing Adobe Reader's form of that green check mark up at the top. And we're seeing the signature, the graphical representation of the signature at the box number 21 in this form. Can you sign on your own device? Absolutely. You got the device, you can sign on it. Connections, no one's an island, and connections are a very important feature. We have connections to many different ECM systems, other types of applications such as, for example, AutoCAD. And we have our APIs, which enable easy integration with anything else. SharePoint 2013 support, and also, in fact, 2010 and 2007. A lot of capabilities here. We're the leader in digital signatures for SharePoint. We also support Office 365, as you saw. That's SharePoint Online. And we support what are called hybrid configurations, so you can have one CoSign appliance if you wish that is supporting both signing from SharePoint Online, Office 365, also SharePoint on-prem, and also all your other different devices, all using one CoSign signing appliance. We have extensive support for workflow, whatever is your favorite flavor of workflow tool, whether that's the SharePoint Designer itself, Vintex, K2, or for people who want to use Visual Studio to create workflows with digital signatures, we can handle that as well. So let's talk a little bit about some terminology from the world of electronic and digital signing. I separate signers into three different categories. The first are internal signers. So those are signers who work for an organization, and they want to sign because they want to approve documents or they want to sign off on documents. Sometimes these documents have to be submitted to outside agencies, and we call that all the application is of an internal signer. The second is a partner signer. So this is commonly an extranet type application for trusted suppliers. We have a number of, for instance, State Department of Transportation agencies where the agencies have a long-term relationship with their contractors, and the agency wants the contractors to submit their bid responses and various proposals digitally signed into the agency, and so they use an extranet for that. Same sort of thing, we have customers where the customer is the hospital and they want their doctors, who typically do not formally work for the hospital, to be able to digitally sign. Again, we think of that as a partner signer, someone where you enroll the person, maybe at the same time that you give them a contractor badge, and set them up to be a digital signer. And there's typically a long-term relationship with these sorts of signers. That's how we think of them as a partner signer, as opposed to an external signer. So that's someone who's signing infrequently. Now, for instance, a DOT contractor could also be thought of as an external signer. The idea is to make it easier for them by enrolling them once and then letting them sign multiple times thereafter. That would be treating them as a partner. For an external situation, that's where it's sort of one-time or infrequent. Customers are the typical example of this. Certainly you have a long-term relationship with the customer, but each individual transaction is usually separated by time, and so you can give them their signature certificates and authority at the time they need to sign something. We have a product, CoSign Click, which is specifically aimed to help out with PDF signing by external signers. And for authentication of the signer, which is a key issue, it uses two-factor authentication. So two different things are done in order to prove that the person is who they say they are. The first is email, and the second is they are sent a one-time password using SMS. There's also an API for CoSign Click, and that's going to be part of my second demonstration. So in fact, this now is the lead-in to that second demonstration. And what we're going to do is show two-party contract signing, and in particular, signing of an offer letter, which in fact is a contract with two different people signing it, the person sending the offer and the person accepting the offer. We've got two different kinds of signers: that internal signer who is sending out the offer to the prospective employee, and the external signer, and we want to make sure to capture her signature digitally and online. So we're going to start off, it's a workflow. The first will be that Kevin is going to enter the data about Susan. Susan is the new engineer who we are trying to hire. Then Bill, the HR manager, is going to be notified by workflow that he needs to sign the offer letter, so he's going to be the internal signer. The third step is that Susan will be notified that she has the offer letter and she needs to sign it. And as part of that signing process, she's going to be sent an SMS message with that one-time password, and you'll see that. And then Bill will be sent the indication that the letter in fact was signed by Susan, so he can look it over. And throughout the process, everything is managed by workflow running on SharePoint, and eventually the letter is going to be stored in SharePoint system. It's in fact always being stored in the SharePoint system, but at this point it's now finalized. Okay, right, so there's my arrow there. So let's see if my live demo works. Always thrilling to do a live demo. Let's see here, where am I? Here we go. Okay, so this is where Kevin is going to add the information for Let's see if again I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is where Kevin is going to add the new employee. So let's do that. We say new item. Whoops. That's my VPN kicking in. Okay, here we go. So we're going to add in Susan James. And let's see here. I've got things predefined as defaults just for the purposes of this demo. And I'm going to put in her email. Okay. And let's put in my phone number. I've got this wild and crazy phone number here. Okay, so while that is being processed, let's see exactly what is being done with that. Okay, the first is that we created a SharePoint list data using in-text forms. The second is that our workflow is using a Word template document to create a new Word document that has been populated with data from the SharePoint list itself. That Word document is being converted to PDF using Windows Automation Services. Now, instead of these two steps, there's multiple other ways of creating a PDF from data. One vendor now is WebMerge, and then there's a number of other vendors too who will do this for you. The next is a signer task is being created using the CoSign connector for an in-text, and finally the internal signer is being notified of the signing task. So let's see if that has happened yet. We're going to go over to, this is I think, let's see here. Okay, so we're going to go to Outlook. And this is why live demos are always exciting. Okay. Oh, look at that. Just when I was getting a little nervous. Okay. So here's the email that's come in. So it's telling Bill that there's an offer letter ready for you to review and sign. Okay, so he's going to click here, and that takes him to the signing, to first a preview window for signing the letter, and he's signing, this is SharePoint on-prem. So this letter has been filled in with the information, and let me see here. We're going to scroll down and go to page 2. Okay, so this is where he's going to sign. So I'm going to select the field to sign, and this can be dragged and dropped and moved around and so forth. And we could also set this up with a pre-positioned field, but for the purposes of this demo, I wanted to show you how you can simply move around the field to where the signature is going to appear on the document. So I click Sign, and my title is I'm the HR manager, and my reason is that I've approved this, and I am Bill Linden, and I authenticate myself, and then we go down here and we will sign. Okay, so again, the various cryptographic operations involved with doing a digital signature are being calculated and applied and so forth. And we get our results here. All right, so the signature was added. That's good. And now we are going to scroll down here and approve that we are done with the step in our workflow. Okay, so now that's all that Bill has to do. So now if we go down, let's see what happens next. What happens next is that the internal signer completes the signing process. That's me, Bill, so I've just done that. The next is that the workflow is going to send a signing request to CoSign Click. Now, CoSign Click is a SaaS service running out there in the cloud. And the signing request is going to include the document itself and the various other signing parameters so that Susan James can be notified that she's got an incoming message to be signed. That's that next step. It'll send the email to her. Then she is going to get that email, and when she clicks on it, two things are going to happen at the same time. The first is that she will see the authentication screen, and the second is that the SMS message is going to be sent. Then by entering the SMS message, she is authenticating herself, and that's proving that she has those two factors of authentication. Once she's done that, she can preview the letter and then sign it online. So let's see how all this works. So I want to okay, so here's Susan's email, and what I also want to do is bring up my cell phone. So now when I hit refresh, he says hopefully we're going to get this email coming in from CoSign Click. And then we'll be able to see the SMS message come in live. So this is where I'm nervously refreshing. Here we go. Came in. Okay. So this is the email, and it's customized as part of the workflow. So I am now going to click on this, and two things happen at the same time. The first is that we see the CoSign Click screen. And the second, if you've noticed it on my cell phone, the second is I got my one-time password, which will work exactly once. So let me enter that. And sign in. CoSign Click will preview the document for me. And at this point, we're using a preset signature field. And you can see how it's right where the candidate needs to sign. So all she has to do, all Susan has to do, well, first, she would, of course, very excitedly look over this entire email and say, this is good news, I accept. So down here, page 2 has got down at the bottom, has a icon. It doesn't just say to, it says sign, because that's where she needs to sign. And this is, in fact, a contract, so she signs it. And when she hits apply, it says, in fact, that we want you to give a reason why you're signing it. As I said, she's excited about this. And now she's signed it, so that's good. And click Done. And she's all set. Now, in fact, as part of the workflow, we can redirect her rather than just serve a generic thank you screen. As part of the workflow that was designed, we can redirect her to a customized screen, and that way give her more information about her first day at Tekatink and either dealing with I-9 for U.S. located employees, or for non-U.S. employees, you have to go somewhere else and do other things. Okay, So then the last part of this is we're going to go back to Bill Linden, and in fact he has received the workflow now. It says that she has signed the offer letter, and when he clicks on it, the offer letter is going to be downloaded to his screen, and then the signature is going to be verified. So that's what we see up here at the top left, that Adobe Reader has verified the signatures. And if we scroll down to where the signatures are, and then double click on either of them, we can see that Adobe Reader feels that the signature is valid, and the document has not been changed, and everything is good. Same, of course, for Bill's signature itself. No doubts about either one of these. Okay, so this is the end of the demo, and I have a couple of slides left. So here's the review of what we saw. The HR clerk, then the HR manager, the internal signer, then the external signer that was being sent to the candidate using CoSign Click, and finally notification that the letter was signed goes back to the HR manager, the initiator. Tools used to create this demo were SharePoint On-Prem, then Text Workflow, then Text Forms, CoSign, CoSign Click. So here's the configuration. And something I want to mention is that one of the advantages of CoSign is that because the CoSign let me back up. CoSign signing services, there's 3 different categories of our signing services. The first is CoSign Central, so that's an appliance that lives on your network, and we'll come back to that one. Second is CoSign Cloud, and the third is CoSign Click, includes its own signing service. With CoSign Central, and in fact we also have CoSign Private Cloud, which works the same as CoSign Central, except it's in a private cloud set up for you using a VPN and so forth. With CoSign Central, the signing is taking place on your network, so your document never leaves your network until you decide to send it to someone. And that is very important for people who are quite security-minded, and there's a lot of companies who do not want to send their documents out over the internet to somebody to get signed. And this way, for internal signers, it can all be done online within the firewall, excuse me. Okay, this is showing the configuration. In this case, SharePoint On-Prem was communicating through the internet to CoSign Click, and there's also, of course, Gmail. That's how Susan was receiving her email. So here's my penultimate slide, and this goes back to the overall promise of this webinar. Why is this going to be your most successful SharePoint project? And the answer is from 4 different directions. The first is happy users. This will be the project to really increase adoption within your organization. People like using digital signatures, online signing. The second is happy managers, because they are now going to be able to understand exactly what's going on within their business. And this goes directly to my point about using statistics from workflow, because the managers now can understand which groups are handling things quickly, which groups need more training, which groups need more resources, which groups can take on additional projects, and so forth. The third is happy IT. The system CoSign installs very quickly. It hooks up with Active Directory and automatically synchronizes the signers with Active Directory. We don't want you to have to create a whole new business process just to keep track of who the signers are, and that's why an important feature of CoSign, and Forrester was mentioning this in terms of its connection with your central system, whether it's Active Directory or some other LDAP system. It means that you simply add the person when you enroll them into your computing system, and you add them as a member of your Active Directory. You also say that they're in the signers group, and then automatically a digital certificate will be set up for them by CoSign. And so the need and the ongoing time and cost for IT are low, and on the positive side, as I mentioned, this is going to be a real way for them to expand the quality use of SharePoint within the organization. And lastly, your executives are happy. Why? Because the money's saved. And even more important these days is that you're speeding the organization. This is the whole idea of digital disruption. I was talking to one of our customers, and I said, so what were some of the reasons why you decided to go ahead with your purchase and your projects? They are busy converting 100 business processes to use workflow, SharePoint, and CoSign digital signatures. And he said, well, we like all the various advantages of it, and then another issue is that our competitors are already doing this sort of thing, and we feel the pressure there, and that's why we're doing it. So on the positive side, this is how you can make your own choices of how to disrupt yourself and gain the advantages of online digital signatures. So for more information and a free trial, you're welcome to visit us at www.arx.com/SharePoint. And my thanks to all the nice Flickr people out there who enable me to use their nice photographs. We have time for questions now. If you have any questions, you're welcome to add them into the system here, and we can take care of them. And you can also, of course, ask questions privately. You can just send me an email, or we can also get in touch with you as follow-up. Let me see. I see one question came in here. What about mobile? And the answer is that we handle mobile quite well. One is that we work with our software is available through the web, through web browsers, and you saw Susan signing through the web browser, and that works web browser on mobile and tablets. And then the second is that we've just announced a version of our client, so you can sign directly from Android cell phones and Android tablets, and also iPhones and iPads from Apple. Okay, and let's see here. Another question is about APIs and how they can be used. And the answer there, excuse me, I'm a big fan of APIs because, amongst other things, I'm responsible for our developer portal. And if you go to www.arx.com/API, that will take you to our developer portal. And we have a range of APIs that make it very easy, whether you're on Windows or building a web application, if you're an ISV or a FAR or an end customer, someone within IT, makes it very easy to integrate digital signatures with your own applications. And let me see here. Another question, which I'm trying to. Okay, so this question is from Sherry. Workflow collaboration, review stages where you want to circulate and track changes before applying signature for approval are the biggest challenge in workflows. How do you propose handling that, or can you do another webinar on this? Okay, so Sherry raises a good issue here, which is that the workflow I showed you was a good demo, but let's drop down to reality, as they sometimes say, and a workflow within an organization can be very complicated, of circulating, tracking the changes, and so forth until the very end where it's ready for approval. So that's really a good question. The best way of handling that is to talk to your ECM supplier, and if it's SharePoint, then the people to talk to would be your choice of workflow supplier, and so that would be K2, Nintex, or SharePoint Designer. My understanding and my knowledge on this is that there are clearly ways of handling all this within workflow, where you can send out a document, what's called in parallel, to multiple people, and they can be editing it or approving it online. and that's one of the advantages, for instance, of Office 365 approving editing online. This is also one of the big benefits of systems such as Box or Dropbox, also Google Docs. And there are ways of handling this using Word, but it's sometimes a little bit trickier because the issue is how do you basically get a document to settle down to a point where everyone has agreed with it? There are ways of doing this that are well tested and proven, and you have different choices, and so that's where you want to consult with a workflow expert. And this, because it can get a little bit more complicated, that's where I would suggest you might want to be talking directly with the people at Nintex or K2, where they have a deeper level of capability within their workflow systems that work on top of SharePoint than SharePoint Designer itself. Unfortunately has some limitations, and that's of course why there's a marketplace for Nintex and K2. But however you do it, let me in fact give another pitch for Nintex and K2, because I've done this sort of thing at my past positions. Is what you don't want to do is create a workflow that's what's called brittle. A brittle workflow or brittle system means that just like peanut brittle, it doesn't bend, it breaks or it snaps. And what happens is that as you get more experience with how your workflow automation is really working out for you, you then want to change it. And the big advantage of both Nintex and K2 is that you can do all of your changes using their graphical designers. You can create any level of workflow by using a combination of SharePoint Designer and Visual Studio, but the problem then is that you have to jump into the level of having a programmer do things for you much sooner than if you use a graphical system. So, Sherry, we can put you in touch with people from Nintex and K2, whichever you want to investigate, and they have a lot of experience handling exactly the challenge that you mentioned. And then once you do have the point of a final document, then you can send it around for people to sign online. Another question is a copy of the presentation slides. Yes, I'm going to make these available in the SlideShare I believe it's SlideShare/digital signatures, and you can send me an email, larryk@arx.com, if it's not there. I'm pretty sure it's SlideShare/digital signatures, or you can just search SlideShare for CoSign or ARX. Okay, so that's the end of the questions. It's also the end of our hour. I'm finishing a couple minutes on time. Thank you very much for your interest in the subject. I hope this has been of interest to you, and have a very good day wherever you are. Thank you, and take care.